I believe we're getting word right now that Sky News in Australia is covering this live. We may have some updates. Let's listen in for just a moment of how this is playing out.
I've spent so much time in recent years. I bring my kids to come and play down here like so many others do as well. And there wasn't just that, the sights that I'll never forget of the death and the chaos, but also these incredible images of Bondi's famous lifeguards. Just ordinary citizens doing their work. And as I mentioned earlier too, you always hope that when you're faced with a circumstance like that, that you would do the work that's required to help people, to stop a gunman, to save a life. And you hope you would do that, but if you're faced with that circumstance, you might not be sure that you'd be able to do that. You would hope you would, but as we saw this afternoon, when people were faced with that circumstance, they went headfirst into the situation to do their job as humans, and that was quite remarkable to see, I have to say, despite so much chaos around, so many broken hearts, and now so many broken lives. We're going to take a quick break, folks, and we will return with more, though. Thank you so much for your company. Our live reporting from this disaster, this dark day in Australia's history, will continue after this short break.
You just saw there the video, a clip of the video that we've been talking about that has been circulating online, where you had the shooter firing on Australians, Jews celebrating Hanukkah on the beach, firing on them, and a bystander crouching behind a car coming up and tackling the shooter and wrestling the gun away from the shooter.
Yeah, and that report there, you could hear in that Sky News reporter just the angst and the sorrow and the amount of emotion that the community in Sydney and Bondi Beach are feeling. It's just about 45 minutes after midnight Sydney time there, and you did see that video, as you pointed out, Charlie, of this bystander. Trey alluding to, I am seeing reporting, Fox has not confirmed that Good Samaritan may also have been actually injured in the attempt to stop that, and that will be an interesting part of the story.
They will hopefully be able to track down that guy.
Yeah,
and we can give
by the way, not just a Good Samaritan, that's a hero. That's an absolute hero, tackling the guy with a gun, the terrorist with the gun, wrestling the gun away, and then attempting to shoot at him, although it appears he had escaped and then was captured after.
And this
is
right here.
Coordinated. I mean, you had two guys. You had two men who we presume, as our last guest, Mary Eisen, said, came in a car and possibly had other weapons in the car.
And the footage we were just showing shows that pedestrian walkway that appears to go between over to that busy highway that our witness said that people had to flee across to get out of the line of fire. And that bridge, that elevated bridge right there, is where one of the suspects was firing from, and then the other one had gone down, was on a grassy area along the beach, and that's where he got tackled. We've seen other video of what appears to be the shooter, one of the shooters, perhaps the deceased shooter, who is lying among shell casings there on that bridge, which leads you to think that that's probably the second shooter who is deceased, and the other one was maybe detained.
And you mentioned the logistics of this shooting and where it took place. Someone who certainly knows a lot about understanding those things is Israeli Special Operations veteran Aaron Cohen, who joins us now. Aaron, this was clearly, by admission by the Australian officials, a targeted attack. But speak to us specifically about this target, Bondi Beach.
So there's a couple of things to unpack here. I agree and disagree with Miri on certain things, your previous guest. Here's where I'm at with this. I do believe that this was a lone wolf attack. I think these were lone wolves. But when we talk about lone wolves, we typically tend to picture isolated individuals who are acting on their own. And in reality, many of these so-called lone actors, guys, are not operationally directed, but they are ideologically influenced and encouraged and validated by America's enemies, our foreign adversaries. And I want to talk about Iran. They have been one of the most active state sponsors of this model, spiking our algorithm, tossing that rage bait up, hijacking that comment section. And so while you might have many peaceful, quiet Muslims who live in Australia, they don't need to task, Iran doesn't need to task an attacker directly. They just need to hand someone a weapon in that ideology and allow them to believe that it's okay to attack Jews on Hanukkah. And so I believe that Iran is seeding this propaganda, amplifying the anti-Semitic narratives to glorify this violence and create that digital ecosystem where unstable and aggrieved individuals like these two shooters are nudged towards that action, and that's recruitment. And that's what I think we just saw play out right here. And I think we're seeing the same type of behavioral, ideologically grievance-motivated, online, digitally influenced attack with the Brown shooter as well. That might not be Iran, but it's the internet that is driving these lone wolves to that operational open fire stage. So that's where I'm at with the digital side of this thing with both of these.
Aaron, we want to play for you that video that we saw on Sky News that Charlie was just talking about. We now are able to show you this. So this is a video of a bystander, a good Samaritan, it appears, that you see coming from around the car, seems to tackle the gunman there. And then as it goes, he's sort of holding them off. And then just off to the right of your screen, there is apparently another of the attackers that reportedly may have shot this good Samaritan. But as you watch this video, what do you make of it?
Well, I saw a civilian taking action, moving from passive to reactive. Obviously, it looks like it was one of the guests. It looks like it could have been one of the Chabad members. I can't tell if he's got tzitzi or tatelim or if he's a member of that particular gathering for Hanukkah at the beach there. But he moved into action. He's not reacting. He's not waiting. You know, when you've got two forces and one person is more aggressive. First of all, you had the element of surprise. Came up around that vehicle, got on the individual, was able to strip the weapon away. May have some training, may not, but pushing action and being aggressive is the only way to deal with somebody who's actively engaging and firing a weapon. He took great risk to himself, didn't have to. That individual is a hero and needs to be applauded, and saved who knows how many dozens of lives because of what he did. So obviously it's a very, very big deal here. But guys, I want to talk about where we're at with all this stuff. We're in this reactive space, whether it's Australia, whether it's Brown. The problem here is that we don't have 2025 solutions, or we have 2005 solutions for 2025 threats. We've got all of this digital. We've got all of these adversaries, Iran, China, CCP, making everybody absolutely nuts online, and we have to start getting in front of these threats. This reactive model is getting people killed. The only way to get in front of these threats, 80% of these attackers leak online. The only way to get in front of these threats is to make sure that law enforcement is getting this intelligence upstream. And so we need to be looking at models like Gideon, my platform, so we can get law enforcement that pre-attack. Guys, every one of these attackers leak online. We need to start finding the signal. And that's where I come out with all this.
So, Aaron, when you look at that video right there, you can see the shooter, you see the gun that he's using. Obviously, Australia has had one of the most aggressive programs in the world for confiscating weapons from civilians, from regular citizens. What can you tell us from looking at that video about the weapons, or at least this weapon that we're seeing here that were used by these attackers?
Yeah, forgive me. My camera's just over here, and I'm looking at the footage. So I see shotguns. First of all, there's multiple weapons that were brought to the scene here. I looked at some of the shell casings that were on the ground at the bridge. Yeah. It looked like it was some 30-06. I saw some shotgun shells, some 12-gauge casings. There was multiple weapons that were brought. There were also ammo dump pouches that were brought so that these guys could keep firing and reloaded. And it sounds like there was 50 or 60 shots that were taken. This was premeditated. These guys were taking their time. They were there to murder. And when I look at all the weapons that are spread out here, what it tells me from the weapons side here is that Australia, while it has some of the strictest gun laws in the world, shotguns, hunting shotguns or sports shotguns are also difficult to get, but they're a little bit easier. But it tells you that these guys are going to get whatever weapons they can. Right. Outlawing weapons is not going to keep these guys from opening fire. And whether they're loading shotguns and they're pumping, and it's tough to tell from the video, the fact is they're still able to get weapons even though it's restricted. So it just goes to show you the laws don't work. Yeah. But thank God that guy was able to jump on that weapon and stop that shooter.
He got it. He got the weapon, but I have no idea. But just looking at that footage, it looked like maybe he didn't know how to use the weapon because you see him just sort of struggling and not really shooting at the guy. So that's
softly across the English coastline, as if the sky itself is whispering a warning. It is June 5th, 1944, the night before the world changes forever. Fog drifts over military camps, stretching for miles, camps filled with young men who pretend to be brave, commanders who pretend to be calm, and messages that pretend to be ordinary, but are not. Because tonight, the world's largest invasion is waiting on a secret signal. A signal whispered across radios, hidden in coded messages, embedded in poems, buried inside ordinary sentences. The signal that will ignite D-Day. But behind these orders,